All right, now, on a serious note, great sadness if you're a football fan. Darrell Royal died today, age 88. We'll come back with a little remembrance of DKR.
We are ESPN Dallas, 103.3 FM ESPN, 1540 ESPN Deportes, and ESPNDallas.com. Serving sports fans for over a decade in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Darrell Royal dead today at 88. Under the circumstances, some of his friends are saying, hey, it is a good thing because, of course, Darrell had suffered for years from Alzheimer's. But the passing of DKR means the most iconic college football coach in this state is no longer with us. And I would say that he's right there with Tom Landry as the most iconic football coach ever in the state of Texas at any level. Matt, you think of anybody else that you would put in that group with DKR and Coach Landry?
No, I suppose if you look back to like the 1920s and 30s, you could find coaches with like unbelievable records. But as far as people that are recognized, those are the two biggest for sure. I was talking about this earlier today on the show, but people have asked me forever, man, how was Darrell Royal? Was he a lot of fun to be around off the field? And he used to have famous media sessions down in Austin after games for all the big-time sports writers. They would go to, I don't know, there was a hotel, kind of a motel-looking place right there by campus. I can't think the name of it now. It's pretty famous. And he used to rent suites out in there, and there were like media sessions, parties, and back in those days, in the 70s, Willie Nelson, who wasn't that well known then, he would show up. A lot of the Austin Pickers would show up, and they were playing and singing. But I never even, outside of asking a question or two in a post-game media session, I never met Darrell Royal, and I always regretted that. I wished, he's one of those guys, kind of a legendary figure, at least to me, that I wish I'd had time to really get to know. And I've been fortunate. There have been a lot that I have, but Darrell Royal, Don Meredith. I never had a conversation with Don Meredith. Ernie Banks. But like Meredith was Don Meredith was like your hero. I mean, that was almost one of those things. Yeah. Like, yeah,
without a doubt. So it's when you lose a Darrell Royal, I mean, you are losing
that's a legend. Not
only in this state, but I mean, in his time, the iconic names were Switzer, who we were talking about earlier, Bear Bryant, Frank Broyles,
Woody Hayes.
I mean,
and Joe Paterno was just coming onto the scene in the early 70s.
Yeah, young guy talking a lot.
But when you look at Darrell Royal and what he meant to the game of college football, I mean, it's just it is immense. And Mosley and I, actually, I mean, it's kind of scary. We just had the opportunity, Matt, a month ago, to go and watch a documentary by a friend of ours, Mike Looney, who's written a bunch of books and done some documentaries on the Big Shootout and what that game meant to college football. Undefeated Texas against undefeated Arkansas. It's the first time Coach Broyles had ever talked about the Big Shootout in 1969. And Coach Royal, I mean, it was kind of surreal watching him. He was hilarious in going back and looking some of the stories and the game within the game. And that was the last interview that he ever did on camera. That was the last one, but it helped me to get to know Coach Royal and his relationship with his players. I mean, those guys would do anything for Coach Royal. And if you ever have a chance to go and see if this documentary ever gets picked up by ESPN 30 for 30 or whomever, it is unbelievable. The impact that one game had on the future of college football and what Darrell Royal and Frank Broyles meant for college football.
I always thought it was great irony that a University of Oklahoma product, a quarterback at the University of Oklahoma.
Played both ways, didn't he?
Yeah, but, of course, you remember him as a quarterback. Yeah. Well, everybody played both ways in those days. Back then. Would end up in Austin and bring the Longhorns back to prominence. And, of course, nobody had better one-liners, sayings than Darrell Royal. Some I think he stole like I do. You love a lot of my one-liners, right, Matt?
Oh, yeah. I've got like a binder full of them.
Like when Darrell went, when Darrell, he would go, there ain't a horse that never been rode, and there ain't a man who's never been throwed. That's old rodeo going back. That's Dust Bowl, Oklahoma, when he was growing up. But my all-time favorite, and this was absolutely original, they're like cockroaches. It's not what they eat and tote off. It's what they fall into and mess up. And, of course, that was a famous line after TCU beat his 59 undefeated Longhorns, number one in the country, and TCU upset them. And then for years, that was the TCU. I mean, TCU used that as the rally cry. And TCU, Abe Martin, 2 years later, jumped him again. He upset another one of his good teams a couple of years later. But no, Darrell Royal took this thing, took football in this state beyond where it had been. I mean, you had the great.
It was an embarrassment. Texas football was an embarrassment when he went there.
But I mean, you had TCU had a national prominent run late 50s. TCU had a national prominent run way back in the 30s. SMU had a national prominent run with Doak. TCU with Davey O'Brien, even with slinging Sammy Ball before that. But, man, those things, and maybe because, they happened later on, but what Darrell Royal, what he did at Texas, nobody had done that.
And Mac was so smart. That's one of the great things he did, is bring Darrell Royal back into the program and make sure any chance he had to get him back on campus, they became very close friends. And I don't know why in the world.
Now, Mac, he really talked Mac into coming to Texas.
Yeah, and I think they really did have a genuine great friendship, and that was to Mac's credit, he recognized that right away. Hey, this was a legend. This is the kind of thing we need to get back to, and he brought the program back.
There's a great piece up on ESPN.com by Ivan Maisel. And
absolutely,
it is for a college football fan, it is a must read. And I had no idea that Coach Royal had a chance to go and coach Oklahoma, go back to Oklahoma.
Yes, I saw that too, and I
had no clue.
And by the way, that story covers everything. I mean, Darrell was criticized, and this is, in the days of segregation and integration was coming on. I mean, he was criticized greatly because they did not bring black players in there in a hurry, and it was the flagship station, school team of Texas, and it was all white. The 69, the Big Shootout team was all white. But when he did recruit that first black, boy, he got a good one. Woo, Roosevelt Leaks. And then that just, that kind of opened the door right there.
There was somebody before that. You remember it was in that documentary that led the way. But I know Leaks was a huge name.
I think there was another name, but Leaks was the big name. And he's gone on
to become very successful, may live locally, but who it was.
Yeah, he's an attorney now, I do believe.
But that Ivan Maisel story on SI.com, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you're a fan of Texas football history.
Oh, excuse me, ESPN.com.
ESPN. Oh, my God. Oh, that's right. They pay us. ESPN.
Fernando Valenzuela.
But if you're a fan of Texas football history and you want to know a little bit about DKR, all of it, now that he's dead today at 88, go to ESPN.com.